Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the GamePlanU NextUP podcast. I'm Donovan Steiner, and I'll be hosting today's episode where we talk about some of the challenges that D1 athletes face. I'm super excited for this episode because I know a lot of college athletes can definitely relate to this topic. But before we dive in, I want to introduce the rest of the team, starting with Lexi.
Hi, I'm Lexi. I'm a sophomore here at UF.
Charlotte.
Hi, I'm Charlotte, and I'm a junior lacrosse player at UF.
Grace.
Hi, I'm Grace. I'm a senior here on the lacrosse team at the University of Florida.
And last but not least, Clayton.
Hi, I'm Clayton. I'm a senior here at the University of Florida.
Okay, so let's dive right into the first question. What are some of the unique pressures that D1 student athletes face in college? Let's go with Lexi. You can start it off for us.
I think in college, it's a pretty unique situation because for the first time, you're transitioning from playing your sport for fun and then just wanting to win because you're competitive to actually having pressures on you to perform and to win from coaches, from teammates. And so I think that the pressure to perform is a really big one. Also, you have less time, less free time. So there's a lot of pressure to time manage and really plan out your day.
I would definitely agree with that. I feel like, especially for me being at Florida, the pressure is the pressure jump from high school is really real because all of my coaches are have high dollar salaries. So, if they don't perform well, they get fired. So of course they put the pressure on us to perform well. And just knowing that my coach's salary and how he feeds his family depends on how I play is a big pressure for me. So I don't know how any of you, how do you feel about it, Clayton?
I think the biggest pressure that every student athlete faces is time management. I mean, we're not just athletes, we're also students. So we have classes, projects, and homework, but then we have to manage that with practice time, video time, and plus travel time. So I think that's the most and the biggest issue that we have, and we have to master, and it's time management.
Yeah, going off of that, I was going to say time management as well. I think it's definitely a huge jump going from high school to college because in high school, for me at least, we didn't have multiple aspects of lacrosse or any sport you play a day. We only had practice and that was it, and then school during the day, obviously. So coming into college, I think it was really different having workouts in the morning, and then in season we have film, and then we also have practice and running, and on top of that, we have school and tutors and all of that. So I think it was just a big difference in trying to figure out where to fit everything in.
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. I'm sorry, you can go, Lexi.
Okay. I was also going to say that when you're in high school and you commit to a college, you don't really know fully what to expect because you're signing away to a school, but you're not sure about all the time commitment that comes with playing your sport, but also focusing on your academics. And at the end of the day, we are student athletes and it's student first, and we need to perform well academically so that we can be able to play on the field as well.
Okay, so talking about time management, going into the next question, we all spoke a little bit about time management. So I wanted to ask, how has the demanding schedule of being a student athlete, how's that impacted your mental or physical well-being? We can start with you, Grace.
Yeah, I think a part of the demanding schedule that was really tough was kind of fitting in time for yourself and your friends and your family and just personal aspects of things. I think it's hard to kind of regroup yourself after such a long day of having practice and tutors in class and workouts and everything, and then trying to make time for personal or fun aspects of things to kind of give your brain a break from all the mental stress of being a student athlete and all that goes into it.
Yeah, definitely. I feel especially during the season for me, I feel like I don't even have time sometimes to do other things that I like. Like even last night, I had to decide if I wanted to get on a video game because I haven't played in a week. But I decided to watch a little more film, and I still had more schoolwork to do. So that's just a lot of the pressures that I face every day.
Yeah, I don't play anymore, clearly, but I think one of the reasons that drove me to quit was that I didn't have time to do anything else. And even when I did have free time, I would get anxiety that I should be doing something, because we just always are, our time is just always filled. And yeah, I don't know, I just got time anxiety all the time, and I really didn't like it.
Yeah, I feel anxiety too. But sometimes I even when I do play the video game, I feel like I shouldn't be doing this. It's something else that I should be doing. I know I could be working on something for school or something else for football, but I do think that everyone should, sometimes take a step outside of whatever sports you play and just do something that you enjoy, because you go through so many challenges every day anyways, and sometimes you forget to, just live a little. But how do you feel about it, Clayton?
I mean, it do take a lot on you mentally and physically, because you can stay up all night studying for an exam, and then you have to wake up in the morning and go practice, and that section can actually affect you physically. Like when you're mentally tired, you can't go out there the next day and practice well. So I think it takes a lot on both, and it's the opposite in the other way too. You can get out there and practice all day, and then at night you're tired and you can't study. So I think it do take a lot on you mentally and physically.
No, you mentioned something about being the physical aspect of it, how it can affect you physically. I know with me, well, with football, we have to weigh in every day, and we're supposed to be on a certain weight. So if sometimes I'm so tired, like after practice, that I have this thing where after practice, sometimes I lose my appetite, and some weeks I'll lose weight and I'll end up getting in trouble for it because I'm supposed to be on a certain weight. And yeah, that's just something that I go through a lot. And I know a lot of my teammates go through the same thing with that aspect of it. So how do you feel about it, Grace?
Yeah, we have to weigh ourselves in and out every day as well. And that's a thing that, going off of what you were saying, that's something that's hard for me also, is trying to find an appetite. Like, for example, we're always told we're supposed to eat before lift, but personally, we have lift so early. So personally, I'm not hungry right when I wake up in the morning, and then I go to lift, and it's kind of exhausting because you're lifting all day and you don't really have anything in your stomach in the morning. So I think it's just important to try to remember to eat when you're before your workouts and everything.
I think it's the opposite for me. They kind of have to manage how I eat. They sometimes say I eat too much. I mean, as a high jumper, I'm 200 pounds, and they're like, that's way too heavy for a high jumper. So now I have to watch my diet and watch how I eat and watch my weight. So yeah, it do take a lot on you.
That's funny. If I get under 200 pounds, they get mad at me. So, yeah, and then you got some of the bigger players on the team that they eat too much. Sometimes I don't eat enough, but they eat too much. So we have this thing called fat camp. So if you're too much overweight after practice, you have to stay and run and stuff like that. So yeah, but going into our next question, we spoke about some of the unique challenges already, but I know Lexi can definitely relate to this question. But what are some of the pressures that might cause an athlete to leave their sport or transfer?
I think one of the pressures is that they don't really gel with the team, so they don't get along with the teammates and the coaches. And I think that's one of the biggest issues. They just don't feel at home and they don't feel comfortable. So I think that's probably the biggest issue in my eyes. If you don't feel comfortable somewhere, you're not going to want to stay. You're not going to do as good as you think you can or as good as you know you can. So they tend to transfer or quit. So I think that's the biggest factor for me.
For me, it was actually the opposite. I wanted to quit, and my teammates and my coaches were the things that were holding me back from quitting. But ultimately, I think my decision came down to the fact that we as women lacrosse players do not have opportunities to continue lacrosse after college. And I just felt like I was spending so much time doing this sport that would only take me 3 more years, when in reality, my goals are not in lacrosse. I have goals for myself that relate to succeeding in college and trying to get a job that I would like to have. And I felt like because I was spending so much time doing this sport, I wasn't able to participate in so many other things in college that would like set me up for success after. And so for me, it just came down to like prioritizing my future, and ultimately like just had to give up the sport.
You said something about how you guys lacrosse players can't pursue a lacrosse career after college, but that's completely opposite for football players. And if you think about it, like most players that I play with, we've been doing it since we were like 6 or 7 years old, with the goal of knowing that we can play after going to the NFL after college. So that's a unique pressure all on its own, because we've spent our whole life trying to achieve this one goal. So, especially being in college when you're so close and there's so much stuff that you have to overcome. Like, I want to talk about injuries, because injuries is one of the biggest things that can stop that goal. I've known a couple of guys that, had the talent to go to the NFL, but things like, ACL tears and all kind of issues with their ligaments and stuff like that has stopped them from achieving that dream. And it's a challenge that we all have to go through. I think, especially in football, I think we're probably the most injury prone out of everyone. So I want to see how you felt about that, though, Charlotte.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because actually with lacrosse too, there's a common theme of players getting like ACL tears and things related to their ligaments. And I've seen a lot of people that have medically retired because of this. And I think at the end of the day, it is like a smart decision, because it's about preserving your long-term health, especially if you're not going to be going on to play at the next level after college. And so I think that's another really big factor when it comes to people that step away from their sport.
Yeah, I feel like I was going to talk about injuries as well, because like Charlotte was saying, there have been a couple girls on our team that have medically released because of injuries. So that's a huge aspect of not being able to complete your college experience in terms of sports. But also I think another aspect is just like the stress of everything, and what we were talking about time management earlier. I think that's a huge aspect of why people stop playing sports or quit the team, is because of the stress of everything, and that I feel like goes into it as well.
Yeah, we talked earlier about the pressures of being a college athlete, like the difference from how it was in high school. So, high school football for me, it was more fun, and going before high school, middle school, and little league, it was all fun, and then all of a sudden we're in college, where everything is more pressure driven. So some might even, just feel that the sport just isn't for them anymore. They don't like how serious it is. So I know many athletes probably feel that way. I've had some of my high school teammates had the opportunity to go to college for sports, but they just felt like that wasn't something for them. Me, I want to go to the NFL, and a lot of people want to go to the NFL, but you realize that that's not everyone's goal. Just because they play football does not mean that they want to go to the NFL. So that's just another challenge that I see people go through every day. So going into the last question, I wanted to ask everyone: have they ever experienced any personal challenges? I know Lexi talked about it, but have impacted your athletic performance or placement on a team? I know for me, I've experienced a lot of personal challenges. Especially my freshman year here, because when I first got here, I wasn't playing well. That's how it goes for a lot of people at a school like Florida for football players. They recruit everyone that, if you look at their high school teams, they're probably the best player. But once you get to Florida, everyone's good. So, many people expect to come in and be the superstar and stuff like that. And when they're not, it gives them like some type of mental pressure. Like, I had confidence issues, pressures from back home, people telling me like, oh, you were the best on the team, why aren't you playing, and stuff like that. So that kind of that's kind of a challenge of its own, and kind of gets in the way of your performance. But I was wondering, did anyone else have any similar experiences?
I Sorry. Yeah, no, I definitely experienced that my freshman year. I come from a place where like lacrosse is not big there, and the people I played against on like my day to day was just so different than the people that I played against here, and that was definitely a part of it, like confidence issues when you are going up against these amazing people. You're like, oh, I'm not good enough, whatever. And then just like the overall, like I'm super hard on myself. I've always been really hard on myself. And I think when I came into this situation and was competing against people who were so good, just made me become harder on myself. And so it was kind of just like like inner struggle. Like I was kind of screwing myself over by having like that mental train of thoughts. But yeah, no, I agree. That definitely is something that I went through my freshman year.
I think for me, a personal struggle or challenge that I went through was I always put a lot of pressure on myself, and I like set really high goals for myself, and I always just put a lot of pressure on myself in all that I do, like academics wise, lacrosse wise, and other things. So I think that was a huge struggle, was trying to find that balance of just not putting as much pressure on myself, because if I expect so much from myself and I don't, I guess, go to the full potential, then that was always a huge issue for me. So I think just kind of finding the balance of not putting so much pressure on myself academically and during lacrosse.
Personally, I think that freshman year was the hardest for me because sometimes I feel like I didn't even have time to breathe, and like you'd have to schedule out like when you'd be even eating your meals and like when would I be able to do my homework and stuff like that. So I felt like I was just always on the go, and I didn't really know how to balance athletics with academics. And then, I mean, if we were staying up late studying all night for a big test and then had to go to lift and practice the next day, it was just physically exhausting. And like I would try to not focus on my schoolwork when I was at practice and just kind of like focus on the present. And so that's something that I've been trying to do a lot more as I've gotten older, just focusing on the present moment, and also just stop comparing myself to others, because like everyone else was saying, like when you're playing at such a high level with everyone else that is so good as well, it's really easy to like feel that pressure and lose your own confidence. So I think it's about balancing everything, maintaining your confidence, and just making sure that you're staying in the present.
For me, it's all about the expectation. Like coming in, my freshman year is probably the easiest. I mean, you come in as a freshman, they don't really expect you to do much because track and field is kind of a point-oriented sport. So it's individually, and then how you do individually decides if your team wins. But over the years, as I became the captain, that's when the expectation and the pressure risen. And it's like everybody expects you to perform at a certain level, and if you go out there and not perform at that level, that's when it becomes tough. And I think that's the biggest thing for me personally, like weighing in everybody else's expectation and my own. And if I don't fulfill those expectations, then I feel bad and it weighs me down. So I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah, I feel like with so many, I know this affects a wide range of people. So with so many athletes in college going through this, what type of advice would you guys give someone who is struggling with the pressures of being a D1 athlete? I'll start off with you, Grace.
I think I would give the advice of just taking a step back and kind of examining what you want for yourself and what makes you happy, and ultimately just going after that. And everything else will kind of fall into line through you fighting for what you want and going after what you want. And I think it is a lot of pressure, but there are a lot of people to help you through that pressure. So I think not being scared to turn to other people or your friends or your family to help you with these pressures and help alleviate the struggle of it all.
Yeah, you mentioned taking a step back. I know I mentioned earlier that I like to play video games. So I think my advice would be to find some type of hobby outside of your sport. And just sometimes, we get so caught up in our sport and with school that we forget to have fun. So I would say find a hobby outside of your sport and set apart some time, whether it's once a week or twice a week, just to take some time away from that and do something that you like and something that you enjoy. What about you, Clayton?
As you know me, it's all about having fun. Once you're having fun, everything else just goes away. You have to take time for yourself. You have to take care of yourself. You can't be just all in track and academics. I mean, I know it's important, but your body is important. And once you're feeling good, once you're having fun, you will perform good and do better academically. So it's all about having fun for me.
No, you can go.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like, oh, sorry. I feel like what you were saying about hobbies, like finding something outside of the sport that you enjoy, is so important because last year I didn't really have that. And I felt like I could never escape like lacrosse. And this year, when I was playing lacrosse in the beginning, I kind of did have that outlet. Like I joined a sorority, and so I had different friends and like just a different sphere to get me out of my like that mental space. And also, like another piece of advice that I have, it would be to focus on effort instead of like execution, because sometimes we get caught up in like how we're doing compared to others, like how we're doing compared to last week, when really that shouldn't be important. You should just like try your hardest. Like that's really what matters. And I think when you start thinking about that more, then you alleviate the pressures off of yourself.
My advice would be that whenever you feel like you can't do another day, or like you have a really hard run test or practice coming up, I think you can reflect and step back, like Grace was saying, and just like look at how far you've come and look at all the hard days that you've already been through. And so you know that you have that mental toughness and you can continue to do this. And then also it'll translate over into your academics, because you know that if you can push yourself physically, you can also push yourself mentally and problem solve. So I would say that would be some advice. And then also I liked what everyone was saying about finding hobbies outside of their sport. And I think a lot of times when you're an athlete, you kind of limit yourself to just being friends with people on your team. But I think something that I would tell people would be to reach out beyond their team and maybe even to different teams or different students on campus, because you'll never know that who you're going to meet and how many of your values align.
Yeah, I always tell myself that perseverance is key. I feel like everyone goes through something, but perseverance can always get you through that. But I hope everyone enjoyed this conversation. That's all we have for today. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do that down below. Click the subscribe button. And thank you all for joining us, and see you next week.